Hello, I'm Robert Galloway, and thank you for joining us for another week of First Presbyterian Church's Formation on the Go series. This is our fourth week, and we are continuing to explore the I am statements of Jesus found in the Gospel of John. This week, we are looking at John chapter 10, verses 11 to 18. Here, Jesus says, I am the Good Shepherd. As always, we hope you find this video, the weekly emails, the resources available on the Pathways to Discipleship website beneficial in your personal study as we follow along the summer preaching series. Last week, we discussed Jesus' statement, I am the gate, that is found right before this week's scripture in the beginning of chapter 10. We talked about how often studies have combined I am the gate and I am the good shepherd. But as each I am statement reveals something unique and different about Jesus, it is important to study each statement separately. If you weren't able to, I would encourage you to take a look at last week's video and pinned sermon for a deeper understanding of the I am the gate scripture. The statement, I am the good shepherd, is an explanation of, or another explanation of the events that occur in chapter 9. There in chapter 9, Jesus heals a blind man, and then later the Pharisees investigate the miracle. When the formerly blind man professes his belief in Jesus to the Pharisees, they cast the healed man out of the synagogue. They are casting him out of society. That is when Jesus describes himself as the gate. And a gate is an object that can either provide protection by a sheep going into the gate, there they find safety, but going out, if Jesus is the gate, they find access to green pastures, abundant life, safety again. And then right after all of that, then in verse 11, Jesus declares, I am the good shepherd. There are several aspects I want to explore in this passage. The first is the use of the word good. And we can assume two meanings here. One is the word good, as in the effective nature of the person in the role. I am the good shepherd. It sounds like when we have someone who's good at their job, a good plumber, a good teacher, it doesn't automatically imply the character of the individual, just how well they do their job. The other meaning of good is the character of the individual. And with Jesus, we have both. Of course, we know Jesus is of good character, the model of character, but also Jesus is an effective shepherd. As a shepherd, he's supposed to care and protect and love the flock. He's shown that with the blind man. He healed them. He provides a place for him after he's cast out of the synagogue. Jesus provides access to good pastures and protects the flock from wolves. Also, Jesus is good because this is all done from love of the flock and devotion to the flock of sheep, or God's people. The goodness and character of Jesus and as the shepherd will be illuminated a bit more as we continue to look at other aspects. Repeated several times is the phrase, the good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. Now, the original audience of John, and we today, will understand this to imply or foreshadow Jesus' sacrificial death on the cross. Yet, John isn't only speaking about death or life after death when he says the shepherd lays down his life. Several scholars actually argue that a better translation of this phrase would be the good shepherd risks his life for the sheep. Lay down your life in Greek is actually an idiom, and it's sometimes difficult to translate or mistranslated, or there's just a better option that we can use. So we can read this again as the good shepherd risks his life for the sheep. Death is not necessarily expected when you risk your life, but it is sort of on the table. So here in the action of the shepherd, when he's protecting the sheep from wolves after the hired hands run away, he's putting his life on the line, but not necessarily will die. It does mean that death is an element here, and we can't ignore the resurrection elements and imagery of this text. In verse 17 and 18, Jesus lays down his life, but takes it up again. That's a phrase that we'll hear again. This shows the active participation and willingness of Jesus's death and sacrifice. What I really like about this part is there has been a lot of theological debates over the centuries about what is Jesus's role in his own death. Did he know what he was doing? Did he have a choice? And sort of the basics of it, was it a passive or active role? And I think here we can determine in Jesus's own words that it is an active role that Jesus has in his death. He is laying down his life and taking it up again. He has the power or the authority to do so. Additionally, laying down the life and taking it up again implies two things. Jesus is repeatedly willing to place his life at risk. We see it in many stories and confrontations with the Pharisees throughout the Gospel of John, but also in the other Gospels. And number two, he does not do it foolishly, but it is to continue his mission, to show people who he truly is, to do the work that God has called him to do. Then in verse 14, we have the second Good Shepherd statement, which I really love because it focuses more closely not just on who the Good Shepherd is, but the intimate relationship between the shepherd and his sheep, which is sort of Jesus's relationship to God, the Father, or Jesus' relationship to us. The shepherd and the sheep are described by their knowledge of each other and are known by each other. Here, which is unique and why I think we should be why we study each of these separately, is where we can almost be in this description of Jesus, so that when Jesus describes himself as the Good Shepherd, we are right there too. And now we can help understand the relationship between Jesus and ourselves. This is a really wonderful and deep passage. It's very familiar and comforting to a lot of people. So I hope you take time this week to really dive in and explore it. I would encourage you to use the resources that are available in this video, in the email, and on the website. And as you go about your study, think about how you relate to this passage. We oftentimes, as I said, take comfort from this, but is there a way we can be actively involved, like Jesus has been in his own death and action and role as the Good Shepherd? Thank you so much.